Body shot, ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. UFC Long Island is here. The date has arrived. Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez. This is a true contenders match in the featherweight division, the stacked UFC's featherweight division. Right now, what we're doing is we're trying to peel out new competition for Alexander Volkanovski. He's currently said, man, I don't think that the 145ers could keep me busy enough. I might have to make a move up, a jump up to 155, double champ status. That's what you do when you're great. That's what you do when you're an amazing fighter, when you have handled all the tests that have been put in front of you. But I do have a feeling that Brian Ortega and Alexander Volkanovski might meet once again. That's to be determined. We have a lot to talk about today, folks. 6 main card fights. We got some sleepers, some breakdown analysis, some wagers. We got money line. We got TLDR. We got the whole 9 in store for you. And to break it all down with me is my co-host, the new Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber himself. AJ, brother, stacked card. Ortega, Rodriguez. We got some differing picks. And right off the bat, AJ, sometimes when we send in our picks and we get the fight prep ready, and we have differing picks, I have a split-second thought in my head where I say, oh, shit. Did I not do my research this week? You know what I'm saying? Because I know I did. I know I watched all the fights. I did all the film study. I did all the breakdown. But we got a little bit of differing opinions, so we're going to have to come to some sort of consensus or at least talk out our disagreements. You know what time it is. How are you living, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. I got my picks done a little late last night too, so I did the same thing, man. While I was submitting them, I was looking. I was like, man, we're at a little differing ends, at some points, man. And it always makes me take that double glance, especially looking at the odds too. Yeah. A couple of these fights, man, very, very close. Why I was so late is because I was having trouble deciding on which exactly won, man. We got a lot of heat on this card right here. It's going to be a very fun night of fights. And we'll see how it shakes out at the end, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, for a lot of cards, man, I could just look at the lineup and I could say, all right, this is who I think is going to win. That's who I was like, okay, I can't do any of that. Let me go home. Let me break down every fight. Let me break down the records. Let me see how the matchups match up. And at the end of the day, man, it came down to we have a 1-fight differential. And this matchup this week is going to determine a lot, brother. So get ready, my man. Get ready. So listen, folks. We are currently around the 400-ish mark, right? 405, 407, trying to get to 410, 420, 450, and 500. You know the spiel. Give us a subscribe over here on the YouTube, the good old YouTube, if that is where you're watching, if you are listening. Subscribe to us on whatever platform you are. But the main home, the main hub, bloodywaterpodcast.com, youtube.com/freethinkersclub. Either one will get you to the source. You know what time it is. I was just talking with AJ off screen when the mics were called about what are we watching on these days, you know what I mean? Because things change from time to time. I was a heavy Apple Podcast user for one time, or for a solid little minute, but we always revert back to the good, the home, YouTube, brother. You all YouTube these days, yeah?
I'm all YouTube for the most part, man. I was telling you, unless I'm listening to Rogan, or at the gym, jamming something Spotify, man. I'm listening on YouTube, but I know a lot of people that that do like that. They like to put it on just while we're jamming, rocking, doing the thing, washing dishes, Yeah. So if you're out there on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever the case, let us know. Let us know what's going on and how we can help improve or even get a little more action your way. We see that numbers there and want to help.
Absolutely, and we have currently hit the cumulative goal of 85,000 views across all platforms. So to some that might not sound a lot, but it sounds like a lot to me. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you, all of you, for watching, for listening, for subscribing, for doing all the good stuff, for sharing. We appreciate it. But enough of the small talk, brother. Let's move on. Let's get into the TLDR. These are the moneyline picks for UFC Long Island. All right, brother. So, like I said, we got a little bit of contention going on over here. And one thing that I think is fair to do, AJ, is to kind of talk it out a little bit, right? So let's just go pick by pick. Main event. I think T-City gets it done, but you're rocking with Yair Rodriguez. And without actually sitting here and breaking it down, because we're literally going to do that in a couple of minutes, my man, what was the catalyst? What was the overall factor that made you say, I think Yair could pull an upset this time?
Man, because Brian Ortega's a dog and I'm expecting a war. And Yair Rodriguez in a war is that's kind of where my money's betting on a little bit right there, man. I'll break it down a little further, but that was the one thing where I was like, man, I don't know. What about you? What makes you think T-City's going to get it done?
I just have seen that T-City against more flat-footed opposition, people who aren't utilizing a million feints, people who aren't super crafty like a Volkanovski, he's had a lot of success against not only on the feet, but in the grappling. So I do think that when you fight a world world champion, one of the GOATs in the division right now, it can make you look a little bad. And that's where I'm thinking we have a good rebound performance. But nonetheless, we look at the co-main event, Amanda Lemos versus Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie, a true OG in the game. But it looks like both of us are taking the new school approach, right? Even though she's an older fighter, believe it or not, she's a lot older than Michelle Waterson. She's the new generation-ish, I guess. But we think she's going to get it done, my man. Amanda Lemos, even though she lost her last fight to Jessica Andrade, I still think she won it a little bit, if that makes sense. Because who puts Andrade on skates, man? Who puts Andrade on the back foot? Nobody does that, right?
Yeah, you're right, man. And the head and arm choke, that standing in head and arm choke that Andrade hit came out of nowhere. So it was one of those, like, just got caught, something happened. But you're right, man. She had Andrade looking backward, eyes wide, scared, like, oh shit, I gotta react. And sure enough, she got the sub, but that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. Heavy momentum for Amanda Lemos right now. Then we got Jingliang versus Muslim Salikhov. And AJ, we both are in consensus on this pick, and we're both rocking with an underdog here. It's the leech, man. This man's been doing it for a long time. If you stand and bang with him, the likelihood is you will get knocked out. But Muslim Salikhov is a great grappler, and he's part of that new breed too of the Demir Ismagulovs, the Gurung Kutataladzes, those types of fighters who are making their way, storming the way up the rankings. So it'll be interesting right there. Next, we got Sumudaerji versus Matt Schnell. And I'm not a Matt Schnell fan, but we've had high hopes for the man many a time. And I think we picked him many a time, and we have been let down many a time. Sumudaerji, on the other hand, forced to be reckoned with, 3-fight win streak. You know the vibes. You know what time it is. Now, AJ, I'm really interested on this one. I'm going with Shane Burgos versus Charles Jourdain, but you're rocking with the Canadian. You're rocking with Charles Air Jourdain. Talk to me, brother. I mean, listen, Shane Burgos is a dog, and he showed us in our last fight he's a real dog. I mean, Jourdain is a dog too. What are you seeing here?
This is another one, Derick, where I was going back and forth many a time. I'm pretty sure I'm going with the underdog as well. And something about the striking just made me think. I was like, man, maybe. And the nice thing is, Air Jourdain, he's very well-rounded. He get things done many times. But when I was watching the kicks, I was watching the striking. Shane Burgos, he's a little bit of a plotter. He might get caught with a head kick. He might get caught with something else, man. I don't know. That's what I was thinking just when I was going with it. But why are you going with Burgos?
Like I said, he's a dog. He's just established. He's proven. If you really think about it, man. Look at his last performance. When he fought, Billy Quarantillo. This is kind of my thought process on it. When he fought Billy Quarantillo, you have a dude who is nonstop in your face. You want to talk about a Korean zombie style opponent, a war of attrition type opponent? That reminds me of Jourdain as well. Jourdain will be in your face the whole fight. So if he already passed that test, right? If he got very close to defeating Edson Barbosa before that third round KO, right? If you lost a fight to Josh Emmett, but that was also back and forth, fought the Amir Khan and Cup Swanson, resume, toughness, I think all of that is just a step higher than Jourdain. But don't get me wrong, Jourdain fan favorite. I would love to see him win, but that's why I'm rocking with Burgos. And then lastly, we have a very interesting matchup between Miesha Tate and Lauren Murphy. Once canceled, now rescheduled. This is the rescheduled bout. But AJ, we're both rocking with Miesha Tate here. We're both rocking with the former champion. Lauren Murphy, though, is much higher in the ranking. So this is really lends to the point of what do you make of the rankings? You know what I mean? Like, but there's a reason why we have our own rankings. Not everybody believes the UFC's rankings are really merit-based. A lot of it is more promotional-based, right? So we're both rocking with the former champion, but Lauren Murphy got to number 3 in the rankings for a reason, brother. She fought Valentina Shevchenko in her last outing for a reason, brother. Why are you thinking Miesha Tate?
Man, this one's to me, UFC just making a play for someone to try and fight Valentina. Yeah. So I'm thinking they're seeing something that Miesha Tate has to offer, and they're just trying to get her built up in order to fight the champ. It really seems like a lot is on the plate for Tate, not necessarily a lot for Murphy. Like the name Lauren Murphy, but still it could play out of the way we see it, and I just think Tate has a little bit more momentum. What about you? Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think Tate is overall more the well-rounded fighter. Like, she has a little bit better striking than her when it comes to the grappling. It could be a little even matched. I think that Miesha Tate, if I'm not mistaken, has been taken down like twice in her last 10 fights. One by Raquel Pennington, the other by whoever her last fight was. I don't remember who her last fight was. Ketlin Vieira. There we go. Ketlin Vieira and Raquel Pennington. I don't even think Vieira. I think it was Sarah McMahon, silver medal Olympic wrestler, and the other fighter that I was just talking about. You know what time it is, folks. So listen, that is the picks. I'm rocking with Brian Ortega. AJ got Yair Rodriguez. We're a lock on Amanda Lemos. We're a lock on Jingliang. We're a lock on Sumudaerji. A lock on Miesha Tate. And then our last differing pick, I'm a guy Shane Burgos, and he has Charles Jourdain.
And just so you're aware, folks, if we take a look back, it is a 1-fight differential between us two. So that is something to keep your eye on. There's going to be a make it or break it week. But without any further ado, let's jump into some sleepers for UFC Long Island.
It's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, AJ. So there are a lot of good fights here this weekend, right? But the one key difference that we have here is that there are a lot of these UFC veterans now, right? These dudes who had such high hopes, had high promise, had so much hype. Maybe didn't live up to it quite as much as, they would like to. Maybe these are Dana White Contender Series products who were kind of brought on to fill out the roster a little bit. But we have a good sleeper. You have a good sleeper, brother, that I want to talk about right here. And this is Dwight Grant, the body snatcher Grant versus Dustin Stoltzfus. So if you look combined between these two, I mean, listen, 2 and 3 is Dwight Grant in his last 5. 2 and 3 is Dustin Stoltzfus in his last 5. But if you look at the difference between these two, right, you'll see. Let me pull this out the way. You'll see we have Sergey Konza. I don't even remember this dude fighting him. I actually do remember that fight happening. It was an interesting one, but this is kind of a out of nowhere type dude, right? You look before that, Francisco Trinaldo, split decision loss. Okay, we got a legend. The win before that, Stefan Sekulic. All right on. But look at this. It was Gerald Mearschart, right? That was a close fight that Dustin Stoltzfus was winning until he wasn't. Then you have Rodolfo Vieira, where he was kind of winning. Not really, actually. He was kind of getting his ass kicked in that fight. But before that, Kyle Dawkins. Both tough opposition for both of these fighters is the point that I'm trying to make. Now, this is a make it or break it fight for these two, man. This is a career-making fight. Talk to me, brother. Why is this a sleeper? Is what I said, does that factor into it, or do you have other analysis for this?
Oh, 100%, Derick. I mean, this is a fight. We always talk about it when your back's against the wall. How do you perform? And usually people that especially both Dwight Grant and Dustin Stoltzfus have been known to perform very highly. At one point in their career, they're very highly touted, looking to be a prospect, looking to get the fights going. All this stuff was working in their favor. And just sometimes you meet a guy who's better. That day, that night, whatever the case is, that's how it unfolded in the cards for them. But both of these fighters need the win to stay relevant. They're both very dangerous, very well-rounded. And in my opinion, Stoltzfus, he's better on the ground. Grant's a little bit better on the feet. And anytime, I hear the body snatchers fighting, especially a dog like Dustin Stoltzfus, my ears perk up. I'm like, oh shit, we got a battle on our hands. We're going to see some blood in this fight. We're going to see a finish, hopefully. I mean, you never really know, but I think a finish is coming, man. And it's going to be a very fun and exciting fight. It might start off a little slow. They're both fighters going to feel each other out. But once it gets going, it's going to get going hot and heavy, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm very excited for this fight, Derick. What do you think? I mean, you hit the nail on the head. With those opponents and how things unfolded for them, it really is a matter of we need to perform and win, or we might get cut. And that's what I think kind of puts it all on the line right here. Do you agree with me?
I absolutely agree with you, but that's what gives me a little bit of pause in this matchup because an ideal matchup between Stoltzfus and Grant, we have a war of attrition right here. We have back and forth nonstop, but because the jobs are on the line, it makes me think Dustin Stoltzfus, he's 30 years old, right? He has a lot more time to continue his career. Dwight Grant, on the other hand, 37 years old. Is Dwight Grant going to immediately say, I just got to knock this dude's block off and keep it pushing? Does Dustin Stoltzfus say, I need a win, bro, I'm going to wrestle? That's what he came into the UFC doing. He was this great German wrestler, and then he decided he wanted to be some kickboxer. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I absolutely agree with you, my man. I think that this is going to be an interesting play right here for sure. Now, folks, I have a fun sleeper here that is not necessarily along the same cloth, but this is one of those where it could be a main card bout for sure, right? So let's talk about it. The sleeper I'm rocking with Dustin Jacoby, the Hanyak, versus Da Jung. And for a lot of people, they might be familiar with Dustin Jacoby because he's been fighting more often recently because he's now in the rankings. But then you hear Da Jung and you're like, who is this guy? But look at the records. 17-5-1 for Jacoby. If you look at the last couple outings, Michael Alexichuk, great Polish boxer, he was able to get a decision on him. John Alon, decision right there. Darren Stewart knocked him out. You have a split decision. Looks like it ended up being a draw, something like that, versus Jan Kutalaba and then Maxime Grisham. Great hit list over here for Da Jung, though, brother. Kennedy and Chekwu knocked the man out, right? Look at how dangerous the man is. Knocked him out. William Knight decisioned him. Sam Alvey got one of those split decision draws. Mike Rodriguez knocked him out. Cadiz Ibrahimov and guillotined him. And I can't tell you enough how impressive that hit list is for Da Jung, which is why he is rightfully so. You'll see the betting odds. He's a underdog here, but if you look at the current betting odds right now, he is a favorite because that's why when I picked this sleeper, I said Da Jung He's the underdog. Wait, hold on. Something's not right here. You guys don't know about this guy. Basically, the story of these guys, two behemoths, two monsters, 6'3", 6'4", respectively, long arms, and knockout power between them both. I mean, Dustin Jacoby, he is a bona fide glory kickboxing, veteran, man. This dude came purely from kickboxing, came over to MMA, has been able to translate well, stuff takedowns, be able to work his game a little bit. So this is going to be a matter of technical precision, leg kick, stuff like that. So, some stuff that Dustin Jacoby hasn't quite been incorporating into his game as of late because of injuries and things of that nature. And Jung is going to simply look to either wrestle a little bit or knock the block off, man. So I like this sleeper because this is going to be a bona fide test of who deserves that kind of bottom end spot in the top 15 in the light heavyweight rankings. We need new blood, right? We have the Yuri Prochazkas, but that's not enough. We need some new blood to cycle in so we can get more title contenders. This isn't going to be a fight for title contention, but this is going to be a bona fide fight to see who deserves to be ranked here. Think about it. Jacoby has 14 next to his name. Jung unranked. So this guy's taking a risk. It'll be fun. What do you think of the matchup, brother?
Derick, this is a fan-friendly fight right here, man. This one's going to be a blast. And in fact, when I saw you post it in the Slack chat, I was like, damn, that's a good fight. Like, shit, I wish I had that one as a sleeper because you're right, man. This is one of those ones that sure doesn't have a lot of, emphasis on it. Not a lot of people really know what's going on. Dustin Jacoby kind of is falling off a little bit, but if you know who this dude is, man, he can absolutely slug him out. Same thing with Jung, man. This dude's an absolute battler, it's going to be a very, very fun fight. I'm excited for. And you lock these two big boys in a cage. You're expecting greatness all the time. It's going to be a very fun fight to watch, folks. Tune into the prelims. How many times we got to tell you, man? Tune into the prelims, but especially these fights right here, they're going to be a blast.
And once again, the whole entire purpose of us doing the sleeper segment isn't just to be like, hey, I want to identify this. It's to say, hey, folks, you don't want to watch the prelims? Okay, well, at least check out these fights. These fights are going to be worth your time. That is the entire point. So I understand. And AJ, I think we can actually take a step back for a second and say, at the end of the day, brother, not everybody has time to sit there and watch all the prelim fights and the main. You get off work, you're like, oh, I could catch the main card real fast. Boom. I don't really want to go back and watch. I already know the outcome. Some people, they're like, if I know the outcome, I don't want to watch the fight. It's not worth it. I'm not that way. You're not that way. But do you agree that there was a point in your life where you couldn't watch all of the prelim fights?
Oh yeah, man. There's always, some life happens, stuff's unfolding. Sometimes you can't catch them, which it makes sense. But sometimes those fights are worth it. Yeah. Or you better put an alarm on your phone and say, oh, it's 7:30. Oh shit, Jacoby's fighting. All right, time to tune in real quick. Put life on pause real fast. Just 15 minutes, not that long.
There you go, not too bad. And then at the end of the day, the prelim fighters are going to be the stars of tomorrow. We're identifying the stars of tomorrow. So you know what time it is. Bloody Water Podcast, your favorite fighter's favorite fight show. You know what time it is, folks. All right, AJ, brother, let's talk some main card, my man. Let's get into it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Brian T-City Ortega, he came inches away from becoming a world champion when he had that mounted guillotine against Alexander Volkanovski. Then Volkanovski got out of it. Then T-City put him in T-City, threw the triangle on him. Then Volkanovski got out of it. If you just heard the recent interview that Brian Ortega gave, he said that, man, how did this dude get out of that choke, man? I need to take a page out of that man's book. That's the only way I can become a world champion is I have to take a page out of becoming one of the greatest, which is what Alexander Volkanovski has done. Now, because Brian Ortega said that, AJ, I have hope that the career resurgence is right here. 2 losses, right? Not bad. 15 wins. This dude was a killer, undefeated guy. They're hyping him up, all that. But you lose to a couple legit. listen, your 2 losses to Volkanovski and Holloway, nobody could be mad. But then you come up against this guy, Yair Rodriguez, El Pantera, unheralded. Even though if you watch this dude, his striking, it flashes off the screen, right? You're like, oh my God, how is this dude not more popular? But he's not, AJ. So is this one of those situations where Brian Ortega, he's trying to have the career resurgence. He's trying to turn everything around, get back, climb up the ladder to get back to championship contention. But then you have this dude, Yair Rodriguez, who he's been in this top 5 for how many years, bro? He's had stints of inactivity. But as soon as he came back against Holloway, even in a losing effort, he won, man. He got momentum out the roof. Now, with a win against Ortega, he could literally be the next title challenger. What do you make of this fight, brother? Who has more to lose here, I guess is the question that I'm asking.
I think it has to be T-City that has more to lose right here, man. If I was Yair Rodriguez or I was his marketing person, I tell him, man, you got to lean into that heel kind of play style, that heel form, because I feel like a lot of people think he's the bad guy. And if they already have that opinion of you in the fight game, might as well run with it because that's what gets you those views. Unfortunately, that's the real, that's the case of the situation that's at hand. And I feel like El Pantera is just not really catching on, not really growing from it, even though people see his fight style. You're right, man. He gained a lot of fans from that Max Holloway fight. But even then, Ortega, he's been in the limelight for a while. He had the Ultimate Fighter, the whole fights with like Alexander Volkanovski, almost being the champ. Still has all this like not animosity, but like growth in his mind that he still, needs a little bit of work to going forward. So I think all of that pressure that he has built up and still thinking about those past fights just hold a little bit of weight in his head where Rodriguez, man, he's just focused. He's going. He's like, this is me. This is my time. Like you said, I had a little bit of layoff. I had a little bit of, I forget if it was injury or if I forget it was USADA. I forget exactly what it was. But he did have a little layoff for, I'd say, like 2-3 years, something like that. I don't have it up right away. But either way, man, I think he thinks it's his time. And it's a time to shine, man. You got a pay-per-view, or not a pay-per-view, excuse me. You have a main event slot right here. This is the one to get it, and against a game opponent, if ever. So, like I said, somebody who's down for a war. You got two dogs locked in a cage, man. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
So just to clarify, because I remember this very vividly, when Yair Rodriguez, after he beat Jeremy Stephens, right? So there was the first fight and ended in an eye poke. It was a no contest. So then they said, all right, rematch him. He ended up winning a decision against Jeremy Stephens, had Stephens hurt multiple times. It was a real good outing for Yair Rodriguez. So what do? They say, now you're scheduled to fight Zabit Magomedsharipov. And this was the fight that we all wanted to see. And right before the fight took place, unfortunately, Yair Rodriguez fractured his ankle back in 2019. Now, that led to 2 years of inactivity, a fight against Max Holloway that ended up getting rebooked, and then he fought Holloway back in 2021, in September of last year, and he lost that effort. But he was coming back from a fractured ankle. Did that stop him from throwing a trillion kicks in a trillion different varieties? Absolutely not. And that's kind of the name of the game right here. Yair Rodriguez is clearly a more well-versed striker than Brian Ortega, right? He comes from a traditional martial arts background. He can hit you with a plethora of different attacks, but one thing you will notice about Yair Rodriguez is he gets drawn out into a war very easily. He sits down on his punches, and he has a hands-low style where he's throwing everything from wacky angles. This is a good and bad for Brian Ortega. The good is, if you're that plotter, if you're sitting down and throwing heat into every single shot, it gives you more time to counter, to react. Here's the other thing you have to take into consideration, AJ. How worried are you that T-City goes T-City mode and says, why are we boxing with these dudes? Let's get back to what won us all of these fights and go back to grappling. Because if you remember correctly, yes, Max Holloway does have a much more improved jiu-jitsu game than a lot of people give him credit for. But Yair Rodriguez got taken down and put in some bad spots, jiu-jitsu-wise, grappling-wise, by Max Holloway. You know what Brian Ortega can do to you, man? This dude, you see how quickly he jumped on that mounted guillotine against Alexander Volkanovski. I'm talking about skill at a different level, a different universe than all of these other guys. So how worried are you about that for your pick?
Huge pause for concern, Derick. It's one of my notes, in fact, because Yair Rodriguez, he's throwing those kicks, and as flashy as those kicks can be, all it takes is one of them just to get caught. Next thing you know, he's running the pipe, you're on your back, and if Max Holloway, like you said, I literally have it on the ground, Max took him down. It is worrisome. It is huge worry right there for the fact that Ortega, he gets you on the ground, you ain't getting up. He put the champ in danger twice. And yes, does Yair have the the dog in him, the callous mind to be able to keep it going, keep pushing through? Yeah, but also at the same point, you can have all that, and T-City has it just locked in a little deeper than you had on Alex. And you go to sleep, you see the lights close and stuff starts fading. So it's a big worry for sure, especially because when you're throwing kicks, especially as many kicks, because Yair Rodriguez just spams front kick, roundhouse, side kick, kick to the knee, front kick. Like he's just spamming kicks left and right. It gives you a lot of opportunity to either be countered, like in the Max Holloway fight, or catch that kick, get a takedown. It's a point of contention for sure. But I'm hoping, man, I'm hoping not, because I think if he can, you said it yourself, Yair Rodriguez, he can get lulled into a fight or like drawn into a fight or a war, excuse me. I don't really think that's the case. I think he comes for the war. Like he's the one initiating the war. And that's what I'm hoping, that he kind of fights the ego a little bit on Brian Ortega and gets him going. Like, no, we're going to stand up and bang this one out and make it a fan-friendly fight. But at the same point, man, Brian Ortega could do the smart thing, get a takedown, start on that position, and it's almost over from there,
Yeah, and so this is my last point of analysis before we actually talk the wagering aspect of this matchup. So if I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure I do because I just watched down all this film, right? When Brian Ortega fought Alexander Volkanovski, the way he was able to set up that mounted guillotine, and I don't want to talk about this too much because this is one occurrence against one fighter, but Volkanovski is one of the hardest dudes to sit there and submit, yet alone knock out any of that stuff, right? So it was one of those situations where I think Volkanovski threw a blind leg kick, Ortega came over the top with the right, knocked Volkanovski on his back due to being off balance, and then he immediately set in the choke. Now, this also reminds me of when Brian Ortega fought Cub Swanson. They're throwing punches, swinging, banging, and he just jumps on that guillotine, and he literally climbs on him like a backpack in front and guillotines him where dude was tapping with both hands like, oh my God, get off me, please, right? So if Yair Rodriguez gives those opportunities like he did to Max Holloway, where he actually let Max Holloway almost get a standing guillotine on him just because throwing wild punches, keeping his head out, doing all that stuff, I think Brian Ortega, I think people, because of his last couple losses, they're looking at him, they're like, oh, this dude, he's not the same, the hype is gone, kind of the Macy Barber treatment a little bit. So I just say with those given circumstances, Yair Rodriguez, one of his main habits that I've watched is, given all those kicks, he throws a lot of blind kicks, man, a lot of blind leg kicks where he just throws it, nothing set up. You're supposed to jab straight, then kick, right? Muay Thai background, no. He just straight up throw the kick, what are you going to do about it? But then again, he could hit you with the body kick like he did to Jeremy Stevens, had him hurt, man, with that liver kick. Either way, I do think this is going to be a very fun matchup, and now we need to talk about the wagering aspect of it. Clearly, Ortega is a minus 160 favorite, plus 140 comeback for Yair Rodriguez, and I think that's fair, AJ. I think this isn't too blown out the water, like, oh my God, this dude shouldn't be it. Because Yair Rodriguez, even though he's really skilled off of his back, I just think Ortega just has a couple more ways to win. If it's all striking, though, I'm worried, because Rodriguez could take this over easily and run away with it. Now, props, AJ. For Brian Ortega, we got plus 650 for the TKO, plus 300 for the submission, and plus 230 for the decision. That speaks volumes to me, because you're telling me that the likelihood between a submission win and a decision win are almost neck and neck for Ortega. However, for Yair, look at those props, man. His TKO prop and his decision prop, plus 300 TKO, plus 275 for points, plus 2,800 for a submission, because you're not going to submit Brian Ortega. But what do you make of these props, man? What speaks to you the loudest between both fighters?
Oh, it has to be, for me, submission for Brian Ortega, knockout for Yair Rodriguez, man. And this isn't the classic grappler versus striker matchup we see. This is a very well-rounded fighter who's excellent at grappling versus a very well-rounded fighter who's a little bit more, dexterous and better striking. So, I mean, I think that TKO prop for Yair Rodriguez, that's what I'm rocking with, man. And I'm expecting a war here, so that's what I'm hoping for. But Brian Ortega gets better with every fight. What do you think? What's a little more lucrative for both?
I actually agree on both ends right there. However, I do think that given the nature of these fighters, right, Ortega's only been stopped once in his career, and that was a stoppage. That wasn't, you got knocked out, and that was against Holloway, right? For Yair, he's been finished twice in his career. And one of them came by Frankie Edgar. That was a doctor stoppage right there. And then the other one I don't have written down in front of me. But either way, it's going to be hard to finish either one of these guys, which is why I can also see these decisions coming into play. But AJ, we've learned from experience recently, because we're trying to get a leg back up on the props. You can't always just bank on decision. You know what I mean? That's not realistic, right? So what I'm trying to look up right now is the 5-fight experience between both of these fighters. You know what I mean? Like Brian Ortega, yeah, he's had a couple of 5-rounders recently. Yair Rodriguez, he had that 5-rounder against Holloway. But if I'm looking at Yair, we have 2, 3. Yeah, so he's gone 3 times. Yair Rodriguez has gone the distance 5 rounds 3 times. For T-City, we're looking at 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. All right, 5-round experience for both of these guys. Decision play could be in order, but do you bank on, this is the final question before we move on to the next fight, do you bank on those finishing props, or do you think the safest play is just to rock the money line?
I mean, the safest play is always just to rock the money line. But I think with these two, you have to go with the prop bet. Something's going to happen, Like I guess we could always be wrong, and there might be a decision. We might just see something like that. But I think the prop bet, those KOs, those submissions, with the way these fighters fight, man, it's all or nothing. And I think that's the way I like to rock it on this one. But, the money line is always the safest bet, especially at a plus 140 for me or a minus 160 for you. What do you think? Is it are you going with the safe route, or are you betting on a prop right here?
I'm betting on the Brian Ortega submission prop right there, if I'm being completely honest with you, my man. And then the last thing that I need to pull up right here, and I apologize because I'm kind of doing it on the fly because I thought I already had it in there, is the over and unders on these fights. So let me just pull that up and then we'll be good. So let me ask you just one question before I get that knocked out, man. if Yair Rodriguez wins in stunning fashion, is he a lock to get a title shot against Alexander Volkanovski, the next title shot? Like, is he a lock? Versus if Brian Ortega gets a nasty finish, is he a lock? Who would be a lock with a big win in this fight?
Yeah. I definitely think it's a lot more Brian Ortega's the lock. Like, it seems like they're setting up that rematch. They're trying to get Volkanovski enticed. They're trying to entice him a little bit. Like, yo, dog, you almost lost to this guy. Don't run away to 155. Don't take your ball and run away from the court. Come here. There's still some dudes who are down to scrap. As much as I want to say it's also a lock for Yair, it's not really, in my opinion. I feel like he needs one, maybe even two more star-studded performances to kind of really get that going.
Yeah.
But then you think about it, who else is in the division that's there to fight? They want to keep Volkanovski busy. It kind of leads to both of them have to. This seems like a number one contenders match for sure.
You know what's funny, man? I think Yair Rodriguez. Sorry, I keep slurring the man's name. Too many R's. I think that he could get the Lauren Murphy treatment, because if you look at who Lauren Murphy had to fight Valentina, you're like, hold on, you fought who? And you got a title fight? All right, I'll just leave that where it's at. Over and under, brother. 4.5 rounds. You going over and under?
Woo, 4.5.
Yeah.
They think this one's going to decision, huh? I'm going under. I'm taking the KO. I'm going under. Yeah. I don't even think. I think round 2, round 3 doesn't even matter because it's 4.5. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm going under too, and I think the only reason why it is 4.5 is because both of these dudes are incredibly durable. So I think that's the reason, the odds makers. But to give you a little bit of a promise on the under pick, it's minus 135 for the under. So I will just put that for what it is worth. That is your main event, folks. I'm rocking with Brian Ortega via submission. AJ, Yair Rodriguez via TKO. Either way, it should be a star-studded matchup right there. Now let's move on to the co-main event. Michelle Waterson is trying to find herself in a resurgence bout against Amanda Lemos. So you fought Marina Rodriguez in your last bout, and you kind of got picked apart, man. You lost a decision easy. Now you fight Amanda Lemos, who arguably, I'm not going to say she's more dangerous than Rodriguez, excuse me. It's just a different style matchup, but she definitely has more power in her hands. You know what I mean? She definitely has a overall repertoire that can kind of stifle the approach of Michelle Waterson, who does a lot of her work at distance, a lot of kicks. Just get off me, kick, circle around, do all that stuff. Now, I think it's easy for us to forget that Michelle Waterson has 9 career submission victories. Amanda Lemos coming off of a submission loss. For a lot of people, that could give them pause for concern. But, like you stated earlier, AJ, when Lemos got caught, it was because she was just throwing, and Andrade just locked it up, but she also had to do a lot of adjusting in there, right? So she had her locked up, and being the jiu-jitsu ace that Jessica Andrade is, she was able to kind of get the job done right there. So my question to you here, AJ, is that if you're smart, if you're Amanda Lemos, if you say, I need to get back in the win column because I am all of 35 years old and I need to make my run right now, do you say, let me get this lady out of here early, first round, let me just put it to her, flat-footed Muay Thai style, and just drop down those right hands and get the TKO? Or do you think that she's going to try to play it safe and conservative against Michelle Waterson?
I don't think safe and conservative is Lemos' game, brother. I think she's going to stand in there, foot in the tire, and say, let's bang.
Yeah.
And it's kind of why I'm excited for this fight and why I think it's, second to the main event, because Michelle Waterson's that same fighter. She fights with a lot of ego, a lot of pride, a lot of I'm here. I'm going to be a war of attrition. I'm going to keep it going. It's going to be a very fun, entertaining match for as long as it lasts. I give Karate Hottie a lot of praise, because she is a fighter who's been doing it for so long at such a high level, but doesn't really have as much, like a push behind her. I feel like sometimes, and it's a trap a lot of these fighters can fall into. Sometimes the glamour of like Instagram and doing the TikTok dances and doing, living the life of a star can kind of get in the way. And I feel like Waterson's a little bit falling off on that. So even then, like I said, Amanda Lemos is going to come in, foot in the tire. Now I think it's time for Michelle Waterson to also realize, this is the fight. Like, this is the one where I can get back to title contention. I think she's going to bring the dog out of her, because Michelle Waterson is very much a dog, a hungry dog in a cage. It's going to be a lot of fun. Are you seeing the same thing I am, or do you think Michelle Waterson's still locked in that old school kind of thought that she has been?
Well, I think that she's trying to have this career resurgence right now, but I do think that she falls into the woes of the older generation, man. You know, look at who she's fought in her last 5. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Carla Esparza, Angela Hill, Marina Rodriguez. So 4 of those 5 names are literally OGs of the game, right? Amanda Lemos, on the other hand, you find all the newish to mid-generation people, right? Anui, you got Lavina Souza, Montserrat Ruiz, Angela Hill, Jessica Andrade. So while the hit lists aren't comparable, I do think that Karate Hottie does find herself wrapped up in the success of the past. Because if you look at her UFC record, she's 6-5, brother. It's not the most glamorous thing right there. And if you really break it down, Michelle Waterson has a lot to lose right here, even though she's only 31 years old, man. If she moves to 6-6 in the UFC, she went from being that perennial almost title challenger to what, gatekeeper, I guess you can call it, money fight. I think that's what Michelle Waterson is right now, the money fight. Would you agree with me there?
Yes, I would very much call her a money fight, not necessarily a gatekeeper. Although it's headed that way, I still think she has a lot of push behind her. She gets a lot of respect back in New Mexico, fighting out of Jackson Wink, always training with the great Holly Holm. So there's a lot of attention on her and a lot of that media presence, which I think sometimes it just gets in the way for Hottie, man. It's a rough one because she's always game to scrap. She's always game to be in there, and her striking's nice. Her grappling, like you said, is very impressive. 9 submissions coming out of there. Very well-rounded fighter, but I would still classify her as that old school, like kind of over the hill, a little bump of a fighter. You know what I'm saying?
Let's not forget that Michelle Waterson, even though she's only 31 years old, man, she used to be on Bully Beatdown. You remember that? Yeah, she was on Bully Beatdown, man. She's an OG, man. That's just what I'm trying to say here. Okay, let's talk X's and O's, man. Amanda Lemos, she's a southpaw. She has a 3-inch reach advantage. I think that's going to give Michelle Waterson a lot of problems if she's not constantly throwing all of those crazy karate kicks. But here's the problem. Amanda Lemos is going to walk her down methodically, and she's going to take away those kicks. And if it turns into a boxing match, I just don't see this lasting long. You with me?
I'm with you, man. Yeah, especially with the power of Lemos.
All right, brother. So for props right here for an Amanda Lemos, plus 240 for the TKO, minus 110 for the decision. So even if she can't get the knockout, even though 7 of her 11 victories have come via knockout, if she can't get the knockout, the odds makers are very, very positive, very hopeful that she will get that decision prop. Don't you think though a TKO, is very, very at hand here, very likely here?
I think it is. Like when I'm breaking it down mentally, I think Amanda Lemos is going to walk in for that TKO. That's what she's hunting all day. Big power. She's very tense, very like bullying almost. To use not a correct word, but the thing is, Michelle Waterson is very durable, very durable. She can take a beating, unfortunately for her. So that's why I think that decision prop. And actually, when I'm looking at my notes, I have Lemos for decision. Partially because I respect Waterson so much, but also for that same thing, man, she's very durable. And I think the odds makers right here seeing the same kind of thing for that 110 decision makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, brother, Michelle Waterson hasn't been knocked out since before she was in the UFC. It was like early in her career, which is why on one hand, I'm like, statistically, look at all of the names that she's fought. How many of these fighters, though, are big knockout artists? Angela Hill, decision, right? Carla Esparza, lots of decisions. Joanna, even though she had a run of a couple knockouts, a lot of decisions. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, she had some knockouts, but a lot of decisions. And then you have Amanda Lemos, a different breed. A fighter that Jessica Andrade said, I can't take my bully, walk forward, get into a war approach with this girl because she has too much power. If Andrade says that, you have to give this person respect. So I think Lemos has literally rocked every single fighter that she's fought in her last 5. I'm going to take a chance, brother, and I'm going to rock with a TKO. Amanda Lemos right here, that plus 240 prop right there. Now, if I'm wrong and if Michelle Waterson just chooses to be super durable and all that good stuff, man, well, then so be it. But I think it's too good of a prop not to play, in my opinion, for this specific matchup right here. You rocking with the decision, brother?
I agree with you, man. It's hard because I've been going back and forth. I see that last night I was looking at a decision. I wrote it down, but that 240 prop for the TKO with somebody who needs to prove that she's still relevant, still needs to get in that dogfight. And we saw it. I mean, the thing though, also we saw in the Marina Rodriguez fight. You want to talk about somebody who can knock somebody out? It's Rodriguez, and still very durable fighter, very in the game, bloodied up. Doesn't matter. She's still there as Michelle Waterson does. Yeah, I'm gonna rock decision just to go something a little different than you, but I can see that TKO prop working. I'm going the decision now.
The odds makers are on your side, brother, because the over and under is 2.5 rounds. The over is minus 220, under plus 180 right there. So, once again, even though that minus 110 is right there, it's a lot better than the minus 350, honestly. That is something that you should definitely take into consideration if you want to hedge for an Amanda Lemos. But, yeah, if you're Michelle Waterson, I think decision play is the only play at hand, really, the plus 400. So, that is your co-main event, Amanda Lemos versus Michelle Waterson. You actually got to love that Amanda Lemos is coming off of a main event, and now she gets to co-main. They're trying to give her the rub, man. They're trying to give her the rub. But next up, we have a banging matchup in the welterweight division. The Leech, number 14th ranked Jingliang versus Muslim Salikhov. And this is going to be a fun matchup, AJ, because Muslim Salikhov is a man I've been talking about for a long time. And I've been saying, hey, man, some of these ranked dudes, they should be fighting him, and that are at the end of the rankings, they should be fighting him to make sure that they keep their ranking, earn their spot right there. But then you got to do like the Leech, who doesn't care and said in his last outing, I'll fight Hamza, whatever. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And this is after the man came off of a very impressive knockout win over Santiago Ponzinibbio. So you get mauled by Neil Magny, you get a comeback knockout win against Ponzinibbio, get mauled by Chimaev. Clearly, what is the kryptonite for the Leech? It's the wrestlers, it's the grapplers, people who can hold you on your back. Now, the Kung Fu master, Muslim Salikhov, can he wrestle? Absolutely. Does he like to wrestle? Not primarily, not with what we've seen. Average is about to take down a fight, but this dude gets it with the hands, man. So here's my analysis, here's my breakdown, AJ, and I want you to tell me if you think I'm correct or if you have any pushback for me. I think that if this fight remains technical, because Muslim Salikhov is a very technical striker, if he could stay clean, stay out the pocket, get in, get out, hit his spots, and then keep his head off the center line and keep it pushing, this can be a runaway fight for Muslim Salikhov, especially if he mixes in some grappling. But if this gets dirty and you have clinch situations and then you have some dirty boxing, and if the Leech can clip you with that left hook, I can see Salikhov going to sleep just like 9 of the 18 fighters that the Leech has fought, all been put to sleep. So the key to victory for the Leech, make it dirty, make it ugly, make it a scrap. The key for Muslim Salikhov, keep it technical, give him the Francisco Trinaldo treatment when he fought him in the last outing, and he just get out, keep going, don't get touched, man, outpoint him, outwin, just win the decision. So do you agree, or what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. That is hit the nail on the head with that description, because that's really the game plan for both guys going in. Now, the only thing that kind of gives me a little pause for concern for Salikhov is the fact that he's not as agile. He's like the Trinaldo. You don't think he's that. You look at him, you think he's a little old, but homeboy can move. He can get out. He can get out of the way. Salikhov, I feel like he's a little bit more of a plotter, a little young in the game, but he doesn't seem like he has a long fight career, but he's just, he's a little slower of the step than the Leech, at least. The Leech is very boundy. He has that wide karate stance. He keeps that left hand pawing forward, always moving, always doing stuff, man. And I think he has that blitzy style a little bit more. He can maintain the range, but also, like you said, get on the inside, throw some dirty boxing. Things get a little gritty. The Leech is that kind of fighter, man. And Salikhov, I agree with you. Stays technical, he's going to look really, really good, especially with how he mixes up his kicks. Kung Fu Master, or the King of Kung Fu, is a very apt nickname because he does set things up very nicely. He has a very high fight IQ. The only thing that scares me, like I said, is that agility to get in and then get out, because I think the Leech has him a little overmatched in that one aspect. Do you agree with me, or you seen something a little different there?
No, you're spot on, man. You're spot on. The only question that I have here with the Leech is you see a lot of his wins, even though you end up seeing a TKO, you see it all comes round 3, right? You see late. Well, that's what I like. The power remains always. All he needs is to clip you once. But if you even look at the Zaleski fight, the Zaleski Dos Santos, bro, he knocked him out with like 15 seconds left in the fight. Like, this was a fight where on points, you never know where it could go, man. But the number one thing that I was looking at, and this is something that I actually wanted to pull up because this is just interesting to me, is I'll look at these knockout guys and I'll say, okay, yeah, you're this crazy knockout striker, whatever. But if we take a look at, boom, there we go. So if I pull up for the Leech, Li Jingliang, and you look at these numbers, right? So he literally, Kamza just put it on him. 25 strikes to 0. The man got a donut right there. Ugly, right? But look at all the other fights. You knock out Ponzinibbio, you outstruck him by 10 strikes. You lost to Magny. Yeah, he wasn't able to get any strikes off. But look at the fights that he's won. He knocked out Dos Santos, outstruck him. Knocked out Zawada. Knocked out Zawada, outstruck him. All these dudes, it's like when these wins are coming, he's outstriking them. So the one sign that you don't want to see is the fighter who is losing the striking battle and just gets the knockout and ends up winning it, right? That's more pause for concern because you say, all right, well, at the end of the day, man, if you didn't get the knockout, you probably just would have got outpointed. So this is one of those situations where I have to ask you, do you think the Leech can outpoint Muslim Salikhov? Because I'll tell you right now, the odds makers don't. Look at that decision prop, plus 425 for the Leech, plus 160 for Salikhov. Do you think he can outpoint him?
Not really, man, because Salikhov, he's technical. Like I said, he's setting things up. He's moving. He's playing chess in there. Or even if Li Jiang was also playing chess, Salikhov's playing 3D chess. He's thinking in different dimensions right here. And that's what gives me a little pause for concern. I agree. I think he's a little more technical, and you can see the odds makers agree with us as well.
Yeah. So this is what it comes down to. This is my underdog play. Do I think Salikhov, is rightfully so the minus 175 favorite? Absolutely. I do think he is. I think this dude's a stud. I think the combination of the experience of the Leech. Look at the last 5, man. Very impressive last 5. And then you look at the knockout power in his hands, where it seems like all he has to do is touch you, man, and he's at least rocking you, knocking you down, something like that. That's the edge that I'm giving the Leech. However, I do think a minus 175 money line hedge for Salikhov would be smart. You know what I mean? Just throw a little bit down just to kind of hedge that. But this is the upset play, and this is what I like to see right here, especially because he has a number next to his name. He wants to keep that number next to his name. Otherwise, this is going to be a huge leapfrogging spot for Salikhov. So let's talk the props, brother. If you're Salikhov, do you think that it's possible to TKO the Leech, who has never been knocked out, or do you think the decision prop is the best bet for him?
If you're going Salikhov, that decision, man, that plus 160 for the decision, that's the way to rock it. He's technical. We've been saying it the whole thing, man. Technical.
Absolutely. And for the Leech, I like that plus 350 TKO right there, brother. And I feel like it almost doesn't make sense to go the plus 155 money line because he's not going to submit him. You know that. And the decision is a little far-fetched. So if we're going to go with anything, we're going to go ballsy. And if we have to go ballsy, I'll go ballsy. I don't care, man. Plus 350 for the TKO, I'll take it. Now, we got to be careful because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you just finishes every single fight. Can it happen? Yes. Likelihood of happening? Not as high. Are you rocking with a TKO for the Leech, or how are you getting this done?
Oh yeah, brother. TKO for the Leech. I'm thinking a little late too, man. Maybe the over. Maybe what's the over? What is it? 2.5?
2.5, brother.
2.5. I'm taking the over, man. I think it's gonna happen early round 3.
Okay, I got you. And just to be clear, for the 2.5 mark, you have to pass 12 minutes and 30 seconds of fight time for the 2.5 to hit. So you're taking the over. Sheesh, man. I'll take the over too. TKO, late TKOs in classic Leech fashion. I mean, what can you say right there? So we're both rocking with the upset play, the Leech over Muslim Salikhov, the king of Kung Fu. All right, AJ, now this is the matchup right here. Matt Schnell versus Sumudaerji. And this is going to be interesting because Matt Schnell, if you look at his last outing, success until there wasn't success, right? He fought Brandon Royval, lots of scrambles, had some good submissions locked up until it slipped off and got slipped right into a guillotine and pulled the Cub Swanson, the double tap. Get off me, please. And this is the worst part about it, man. I'm not even going to get into it because I feel like we don't even need to get into it. But basically, UFC has they often use a narrative to hype up a fight, and sometimes their narrative is a little too close to the cuff, you know what I mean? Too close to the heart. Matt Schnell, he had some family stuff going on, some passing of some close ones, and they were like, "Oh, he's doing it for his mom, doing it for the deceased, all that." And then you get tapped out, and then it's like, "Damn, bro, you didn't even have to bring all that up," because now it went from if you would have won, that would have been awesome, but now you lost in pretty bad fashion. Not a good look. So Matt Schnell, coming off of that, you would have to think chip on the shoulder has to be bigger than ever, man. If you look at the last 5, he's 2-2 and 1 no contest. And that no contest could have been a loss too. You know what I'm saying? So in reality, he needs to get back to his winning ways. This is a dude who we know has all the skill, all the technical capacity, but do you have that intangible? And that intangible is that heart, that chin, that will, that determination. And when you're fighting a dude like Sumudaerji, who's number 12, who's trying to storm his way up the rankings, who has 13 knockouts and 16 wins at flyweight, I think that you have a tall task on your hands, man. So let's just talk about it right here. Matt Schnell, he's clearly more of a veteran in the UFC, but Sumudaerji, he's a dude who knows how to finish, my man. Matt Schnell, 8 submissions, 2 knockouts. Sumudaerji, 13 knockouts, 1 submission. Is this grappler versus striker, or is this well-rounded versus well-rounded?
I think a little more well-rounded versus well-rounded. I could see where you're coming at. The Sumudaerji is a little more striker because he does use, and it's funny because I was actually looking at the heights in both of these guys right now. They're both 5'8", but when I think Sumudaerji, I think this dude looks like he fights like 6'2". Like he's long, man. He's lanky. And Matt Schnell, to me, fights like a 5'8" guy. You know, we're gonna run in on the inside, try to get up close. You know, try to do high, come in heat oriented with some bombs on his hands. And that's what Matt Schnell has, man. Like you said, chip on the shoulder is going to be large and in charge, man. We could see it like shoulder pads on him because this dude's going to be coming in very hot, needs this fight. He likes to lead the dance. But I don't know if he's going to lead the dance with somebody who likes to fight that long style and can see things coming and literally get out of the way while you're still on your blitz and your third punch and he's already back looking at you, Do you see the same thing? You can think who's leading the fight? I guess is a better question. Who do you think's leading the fight on this one?
Well, I think Matt Schnell is going to come out hot, just like you said. My question is, will he be able to lead the dance if Sumudaerji with that little bit of a reach advantage? But like we said, he fights so long, man. If you leave yourself open and you rush in against Sumudaerji, he's got precision. He's going to pop you a 3-shot combo and knock you down, man. Look at his fight against Malcolm Gordon. You see this dude, he wants to be in your face. He wants to grab you, get a hold of you, wrestle you, get the win, right? Well, he tried to do that. Sumudaerji gave him a 3-piece and a biscuit and had that man on Queer Street. Wobbled down, face first. Smashing on the canvas. This is the kind of the point, is that Sumudaerji, I think, can exploit some of the, I don't want to say chinniness, but Matt Schnell has a propensity to get rocked a little bit in his fights, man. You look at the Alexandre Pantoja fight, he got knocked out with punches. If we just take a look at Matt Schnell, let me just take us through here real fast on Tapology. So for Matt Schnell, so you got guillotine choked by Royval, decision loss, overhand right by Pantoja, ground and pound loss by Hector Sandoval, and then he got knocked out by Rob Font. All of these are first round finishes. So this is kind of the point that I'm making. If Sumudaerji can come out to that hot start, man, and get that going, I think that it can be real problems for Matt Schnell, especially with the chin of Matt Schnell. But Matt Schnell can also do something to exploit the weakness of Sumudaerji. All of Sumudaerji's losses, never been knocked out, never lost a decision. He's been submitted 4 times. I think Matt Schnell says, okay. Something to think about when we get in there. Because look how close he was to submitting Brandon Royval. You don't think he could do that to Sumudaerji? I think he could, especially the long limbs and all that stuff. So this is what it comes down to. Will he be able to get close enough to create those scrambles against Sumudaerji? Or does the man stay at distance, just keep popping him with this very technical striking acumen? You know what I mean? What do you think?
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The only problem I can see for the Matt Schnell is they're fighting in Long Island. They're fighting in the big cage. Yeah. Anytime somebody's backing up, especially with a striker like Sumudaerji, he knows to circle and not get caught in one of the corners. And that's what I was kind of hoping for Matt Schnell is to get him caught up in a corner. Throw, an 8-piece combo, kind of the Axe Murderer style, where he's just rushing in just crazy, puts him against cage, gets a takedown, and then we see that submission come in, and then we see how Sumudaerji works off his back, and then we're into some, some X's and O's, and we start seeing some things match up. That's where I'm a little more excited for it. But the distance management that Sumudaerji has is very impressive, man. Very impressive. And
he lands over 50% of his significant strikes attempted. So there's something to say that. Like, he's a precise fighter. So listen, man, the opening odds were +10 underdog for Matt Schnell, -250 for Sumudaerji. And if we're looking at the live line, it hasn't changed much. Sumudaerji is now a -260 favorite. So just a little bit, right? And I think we should explain a little bit how the odds are set. So Vegas odds are set by the bookies, right? But the odds shift due to the perception of the fans. However the fans see the fight going, that's how the odds start to shift, right? So given that they think that, Sumudaerji is clearly going to be the favorite in here, that speaks volumes. But the bigger thing that it speaks is look at the TKO prop for Sumudaerji, +110. Look at his decision prop, +200. So it's going to show that they think that even though he's a massive favorite, the real likelihood is they think that he's going to get a knockout. Now, this is where we run into some issues. We run into the second guessing, AJ. For me, I have 3 finishes for main event, co-main, and the fight before. Do I make it 4 in a row? Sometimes you have to hedge a little bit, right? You have to start thinking about it and be like, I don't know if I can see 4 finishes in a row going just back to back to back to back. However, when you look at how the matchups play out, it's like, damn, how does he not knock him out? But then, AJ, look at Sumudaerji, his 4 fights in the UFC. He has 1 finish win in the UFC. That's the point right there. Yes, you have 13 knockouts, but when you get to the big show, what do we say? This is the big show is where streaks come to die. You can have all the knockouts in the world. You get to the big show, you're fighting real dudes now. You know what I'm saying? So can you see a Sumudaerji decision victory here against a Matt Schnell, or do you think Matt Schnell is too technical of a fighter, maybe be able to mix in too much grappling to be able to get a decision on him?
Man, that's it's funny because I thought the whole time, and it's actually very rare when I write down what I think is going to happen for the thing. I usually like to wait until we get here. Then I kind of battle out of my mind, like, okay, I can see a decision, I can see a TKO, blah, 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 all that stuff. I was thinking KO from the start, man. Yeah. Last night I was on one, man. I was thinking KO from the start for Sumudaerji. But at the same point, once I think, okay, this fight, you get out of the first. Now the real chess match starts. You're in the second. You're in the third. How does the long on the bicycle style of Sumudaerji hold up? Get a little more flat footed. Now Matt Schnell's in his zone. Now, things start working. Maybe he gets a couple takedowns. Things start shifting out of control of the Sumudaerji striking realm and now into both of kind of where it's a little more of the well-rounded style of fight, So that's where I can see Matt Schnell getting a decision. I can see it. Like it's a little worrisome now thinking about it because Matt Schnell, he's not, even though he is chinny, even though he has run into a little bit of opposition or a little bit of, a block in the path, if you will, he is still very determined and he has that heart and that grit of a warrior, and he can get that decision prop, not easily, but a little more likely than I think Sumudaerji will, where I think that long striker can get a little tired, can get a little off his game, and then start getting a little mental about it and start thinking, oh shit, like I was supposed to knock this dude out. I've hit him with everything I can. He's still coming at me. He's still smiling. He's still looking at me like, what is going on? That's where I get a little concerned. Do you feel me, or do you see something a little different?
No, I absolutely feel you, but that's the whole entire beauty of the matchup right here is, can Matt Schnell overcome the striking of Sumudaerji, or, you know what I mean? Will Sumudaerji just be too much, man? So I'm going to bank on Sumudaerji, and I'm actually going to throw the curveball out there, man. I'm going to rock with that plus 200 decision prop. I just think Matt Schnell's going to bite down on the mouthpiece, man. I think he's going to bite down on the mouthpiece, and we're going to see a war right here. But Sumudaerji, being the longer fighter, given more power, listen, man, how do you stifle someone's grappling? You knock him down a couple times. Be like, hey, don't come over here. You come over here, you getting a big left hook to the jaw. You know what I'm saying? So I'll leave that for what it's worth, man. Over and under for this fight, just so we are clear, is 2.5 rounds, and it is minus 140 for the under. So the odds makers like the knockout, but I'm gonna rock with the decision, plus 110 for the decision, man. How do you see this fight playing out? Who are you rocking with, and how?
I'm rocking with the odds makers, Derick. I'm rocking with that KO. Sumudaerji, I'm going early round two. Okay. Early round two.
Okay, right on, man. So I got 2 unders, you got 2 unders, I got 2 overs, you got 2 overs. It'll be interesting to see how that one plays out, but we're both rocking with Sumudaerji right here, Sumudaerji. All right, this is the fight right here. How does it get buried so deep down on the main card? I'm actually not too sure, because if you look at a Shane Burgos, if you look at a Charles Jourdain, this fight has all the makings of fight of the night right here, legitimately. Like, I can't name another fight where I'm like, there's going to be more of a battle, more of a war. If you liked Shane Burgos versus Billy Quarantillo, then you're going to like Shane Burgos versus Charles Jourdain. Now, Charles Jourdain is coming off of a very, very massive win against Lando Venata, where Venata was looking sharp, bro. Venata was looking so sharp, but Charles Jourdain, he jumped on a guillotine and he was able to finish the fight. And it doesn't matter how sharp Venata was looking, because he got finished. It was what it was. But look at the fight before that. Fought a long, rangy Andre Ewell, great striker. And he took over, man. He took over and he embarrassed him in the end of the fight, where he did that push kick, right? That front kick to the chest, man. Just said, get up out of here, knocked him down, and then screamed at the camera, like, what's up? That's Charles Jourdain saying, here's my reckoning. Here's my comeuppance. You know what I mean? He's 26 years old, 4-3-1 in the UFC. So the record is not nearly as good as the prospect of Charles Jourdain. But this is the wall right here. This is the obstacle. This is the mountain you must overcome in Shane Burgos. Now, AJ, I know you said Charles Jourdain. Look at him. He's got the technical capacity, the kicks, all that stuff. Burgos is a plotter. But look at who Burgos has fought in his last 5. Cub Swanson, you win. Amir Khani, you win. You lose to Josh Emmett. You lose to Edson Barbosa. You fight Billy Quarantillo, you win. That's a hit list of a hit list right there. Man is 5'11". He has a 6-inch reach advantage on Charles Jourdain. That's the key right there. If I think Shane Burgos, there's one other thing that I think about, and that's a crispy jab. And I think that he's going to use that jab all day long to keep Charles Jourdain at bay. Now, the question here becomes, if you look at the takedown propensity of Charles Jourdain, it's almost none. Takedown for Shane Burgos, it's almost none. So if this is strictly a striking contest, What does Charles Jourdain have to do to close the distance, my man? Is he throwing all those kicks? Is that how he's covering the distance? 6 inches is a lot of inches, my man. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Derick, man. And the bad part is Shane Burgos only loses to the top of the top contenders, man. Yeah. You said in this top 5, it was Edson Barbosa and Josh Emmett, but you go down a little further, man. It's Calvin Cater's the only other one, man. I think he only has 3 losses, right? Yep, 14-3 for Shane Burgos. This dude only loses to the top of the top contenders, and he has that reach. He's very powerful, and I think he's on a resurgence, man. After the Edson Barbosa fight, he came back against Billy Q, looked great. Didn't get a finish, but still looked powerful, looked dominating, and I think he's still riding that high, man. And as much as, I give a little grief, the plotters, like it sounds like a bad word, a plotter. It's not really, man. He has so much power. He walks forward, big back, big lats. This dude can crack, man. Down for a war, and he thrives in the pocket. So even if Yair Jourdain does kind of nullify that 6-inch reach that Burgos has with his kicks, I think once the pocket gets closed, that's where Shane Burgos thrives, man. He thrives in that like up close, that battle, that grit, that stuff that makes a lot of people like a little worrisome, a little scared. Those are the ones, those dirty boxing moments. That's when like shit goes down that you're not really expecting. And that's where Shane Burgos thrives. So this one, I was a little I think this one took me the longest. And to go back to what you were saying earlier, I think this fight's buried so far down on the card. Because if we always say it all the time, the first fight of the night, are expecting a banger. I think if the first fight of the night, which we're going to talk about just a little bit, kind of fizzles out, I think they put this one as like, oh, don't worry, guys. Yeah. We got heat on the second one. We got some strikers. This one's going to be a very fun fight, man. What do you think?
Absolutely. No, that's actually a perfect way of thinking about it, right? Keep the fans engaged, right? Be like, hold on, this is going to be a banging card. Trust me. Because when the UFC travels now today in 2022, when they travel, you stack the card a bit. And the reason why is because it's like, okay, we're going to New York. We're going to Ohio. We're going to wherever we're going. You have fans in attendance, all that good stuff. You have to have star-studded performance. You have to have engaging fights. You have to have captivating fights. And this is going to be that one right there. I can almost guarantee it. Now, AJ, I just wanted to say one last thing on Shane Burgos before we talk wagers and whatnot. This is going to be a war of attrition fight. We already know that going into this, man. There's no other way I can really see this because of the way these two fighters go. They both want to walk forward. Who's going to get the job done? Now, when he fought Billy Quarantillo, Shane Burgos, when he fought Billy Quarantillo in his last outing, don't forget, Billy Quarantillo is not just the dude who I'm going to walk up and throw punches at you. He's going to mix in the grappling. He's going to try to wrestle you. Billy Q, who takes down almost everybody, 0 for 14 on takedowns against Shane Burgos. That's the key right there. If he couldn't do that, that means Shane Burgos is fought much more well-versed fighters than the Charles Jourdains. If it's all strikes right here, I just think Shane Burgos is going to have the upper hand. So that's why he's a minus 180 favorite. But you got to think, you have respect on Jourdain being a plus 160 underdog, and you're not a ranked opponent. You know what I mean? Shane Burgos just coming off fighting Barbosa, Emmett, Amir Khani, Swanson, and that's respect. Let's talk props. Plus 185 for a Shane Burgos decision victory right here, my man. What do you think of that?
Whew, defer to the decision. It makes sense. I actually see this fight going to decision. I mean, I think with how gritty, how determined both these fighters are and how well-versed they are, it makes a lot of sense that the odds makers see it for a decision as well.
And if Shane Burgos doesn't get spontaneously kicked in his head and knocked out, I don't really see any other way where both these dudes are knocking each other out, man. I think this is going to be fight of the night because nobody gets knocked out. That's what makes a fight of the night. It has to go to the decision, right? So for Charles Jourdain, it's just interesting when I look at these props, man. He's plus 160, and I honestly think if you're betting on Charles Jourdain, you just take the money line at plus 160. Look at the TKO, plus 450, submission plus 1,000, decision plus 335. Just take the plus 160 and run with it if you want to hedge that way. But if you're rocking with Shane Burgos, I think the plus 185, that is the key right there. Take that decision prop. The TKO prop, can I see it happening? Yes. But, I mean, he could also submit him, you know what I mean? Like, both of these dudes have submission chops, knockout chops, but when all of that comes together, that's when I think we just see that straight war. Unless, AJ, last question, do you think that somehow, some way, this could turn out into one of those situations that Charles Jourdain had with Julian Erosa, where it was a war back and forth the whole entire time, and then Erosa just pulls out the Bravo choke in the third round, just a quick end, you know what I mean? And someone gets submitted. Do you think that's on the table?
Not really. I mean, obviously, yes. Like, it could be. Yeah, there's always on the table is the unfortunate thing. I don't really think it's going to happen in this fight. I think this is going to be one of those ones where it's back and forth the entire time, washing machine all the way until the end. both fighters, what I like about them, they both have very high fight IQ. So they know that stuff. They can see all that stuff happening. And I think it just leads to not as much of a stalemate in the sense of like a boring, like a Derek Lewis versus was Francis Ngannou?
Yeah.
Like, not a stalemate, but a stalemate in the fact that I know what you're doing, you know what I'm doing. We're still going to do it and we're still going to act on it, but it's just not, not as one-sided as one fight could be. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So over and under is 2.5 rounds here. Minus 105 for the over, minus 125 for the under. So the odds makers like the under once again, man. But we can't just listen to the odds makers. You have to make up mind for yourself. That's what we're here for. For the folks who are a little confused and like, I don't know what to pick, don't worry. We've been mulling it over for you. So clearly we're at odds here, AJ. We're at odds. But at the end of the day, I'm rocking with Shane Burgos, and I actually like the over. I like that decision play for Shane Burgos. Fight of the night right here. You're rocking with Jourdain. How's he get it done?
Man, I really like that money line pick. I think that's the way to go. But if I didn't have to go money line pick, I'd also have to go decision on this one because I think this one's going to be a war, just a war of attrition, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is that fight right there. When we say fight of the night right now and we're calling it, don't be surprised when it is fight of the night. We'll just say that. All right, AJ. Now, here we are. This is the rebooking. Lauren Murphy. Lucky Lauren Murphy versus Miesha Tate. Number 3 versus number 10. And you said earlier that this is more or less of a parlay play by the UFC saying, we want Miesha Tate, the former champion, the notable name. Everybody knows Miesha Tate. Ronda Rousey, all that good stuff, right? We want Miesha Tate. We want her to usurp Lauren Murphy in the rankings and then get a title shot. That way we can make money. Everyone will be entertained. And regardless if it's a good fight or not, it's Miesha Tate, man. She's the money fight. This is clear. It's obvious. To me, AJ, that's why Lauren Murphy is fighting Miesha Tate. Now, I don't know how the contracts work necessarily. I don't know if Lauren Murphy gets paid more. She's already on contract, so how can you get paid more? But you fight Miesha Tate because either way, win or lose, doesn't your stock rise if you're Lauren Murphy? If you have a good showing, doesn't your stock rise? It's Miesha Tate, right?
Oh, especially if she gets the win on her. Especially if she knows she has, even if she doesn't even get the win, but she has this like crazy performance where we're all thinking, and like we said earlier, first fight of the night's always something exciting, and I think these fighters know that as well. So they might bring it to the table, and if we see an exciting, female-driven fight against somebody who is as popular as Miesha Tate, I think Lauren Murphy's stock grows as well, man. I mean, I was talking to a friend about this earlier. This fight doesn't have a lot of name value, but one of the names that is on this one, Miesha Tate, man. Everybody knows Cupcake Tate, and if Lauren Murphy can get it done, I think she gets a little bit more fan recognition at least.
100%. And that's kind of the whole key behind this fight. For Lauren Murphy, she has a lot to lose here, man. You're coming off of a title challenge, I guess, right? You fought Valentina. You got beat up. It's okay. Valentina beats up pretty much everybody. Miesha Tate, she's coming off of a decision loss to Ketlen Vieira where a lot of people were screaming robbery. Do I think it was robbery? No, I don't personally. But it was a good showing. I think that's the point. It was a good showing, and I'm pretty sure Miesha Tate outstruck Ketlen Vieira in that fight. So think about it. Your resurgence to the UFC. You fight Marion Renault on the cusp of her retirement. You retire her. All right, fine. You fight Ketlen Vieira, and then you lose. However, you're still number 10 in the rankings. Now, if you're looking at Lauren Murphy, she buzzsawed through, not really. She fought Joanne Wood. This is what I was talking about earlier, man. Her last 5, she fought Andrea Lee, split decision win. Roxanne Modafferi, decision, then Modafferi retires. All right. Shakarova, she submits her, right? We haven't heard of her in quite some time. Joanne Wood, split decision win, where she got outstruck. She got outstruck by actually a lot of strikes, man, and ended up still winning the fight with some little bit grappling and stuff like that. And then Shevchenko, you get beat up. So even though the hit list is high, look at Miesha Tate, man. Former champion. Holly Holm, you win the belt, right? So this goes to show how inactive she's been. Holly Holm, you win the belt. You then get choked out by Nunez. You lose the belt. Then you lose to Raquel Pennington. Then, like I said, we're back on the win streak against Renault, and then you lose to Vieira. So it's rough for both of these fighters. The whole entire point that I'm saying here is that if someone has more to lose, it's clearly Lauren Murphy. Miesha Tate is being propelled by the company, I believe, to get up to either way, man. The point that we have here, let's break it all down in terms of X's and O's. Better grappler, Lauren Murphy, right?
I think so too. Yeah, very, very much so. Well, maybe not very much so, but I do think she has a grappling advantage, and she's dangerous in the clinch. That's where I think Lauren Murphy strives the most, is in that clinch position.
Throwing those little uppercuts, dirty boxing. If she could make it ugly like that, it could be interesting. But Miesha Tate, we saw against Ketlen Vieira, a very hard hitter. she outstruck Vieira, man. She did what she needed to do. She had a lot of success against Ketlen Vieira for sure. And like I said, Vieira's a little bit of a tank, right? Miesha Tate, though, I think she's the better striker, man. Out in the open, at distance, I think that she could pop it off a little bit more, man. She could use her savvy, her veteranship, 19-8 MMA record. But look at the difference here, man. Miesha Tate, because of the inactivity, 6-5 in the UFC. Lauren Murphy is 7-5 in the UFC. So it's like, oh, the young guns, they caught up to you. Now, Lauren Murphy is older. She's 38. Miesha Tate's 35. X's and O's, apples and oranges and whatnot. I guess realistically here, AJ, can you see any finish coming out of this fight? Because I find it very difficult to see a finish coming out of this.
I see it very difficult to watch a finish out of this fight, man. Both fighters are very well-rounded, long in the game, like you said, a little older, a little more mature. The brain is there, it's working, they're thinking about all this stuff. And I just don't see a way that both fighters kind of let the fight, slip away from them, if you will. I think both fighters are going to be very invested in this one, stay mentally focused, and fight their own fight. Because like you said, man, Miesha Tate, she stays busy with those hands. She's always striking. Things are just moving around for her all the time. And if Lauren Murphy can implement her game plan, get on the inside, do the dirty boxing, maybe get a takedown, get the ground game going, I just don't see either fighter in their position in their career at this moment letting the other one, out control them or outstrike them or anything like that happening. I see a very, very close fight right here. What about you?
I'm with you, man. I have a stat for you that I want you to tell me. Do you think it's an anomaly or do you think we should read into this? Miesha Tate against Ketlen Vieira landed 122 significant strikes. That's a career high for Miesha Tate, right? Lauren Murphy, her career high in significant strikes is roughly around like 80, 95, actually. It's 95. 95 for Lauren Murphy, 122 for Miesha Tate. So the question here is that the second highest for Lauren Murphy is about 80, and the second highest for Miesha Tate is roughly, it's a big drop-off, brother. It's like a major drop-off. I'm talking, it's like 65, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, do we read into this, or is the resurged Miesha Tate, the new Miesha Tate, is this going to be, okay, now we could really throw it with the hands. We can get it done. Because remember, Miesha Tate couldn't get the takedown she was looking for, so she was forced to strike with her. So I just don't want to read into it too much, but if we're making something out of it, man, maybe Lauren Murphy has a case for an upset here. What do you think?
She could, and that's really what I think it does, because if Tate can't get the takedown and Lauren Murphy does, and then she starts controlling her on the back, then we're into some different waters right here. Then we're seeing some stuff shift around.
You're right. So I do think there is a case for a Lauren Murphy upset for sure if she can just dominate the grappling. But if Miesha Tate could keep her at range, if she can get up from the takedowns, if she can maybe get her own takedowns and outstrike her, I like the decision prop. Because if you look, plus 110 decision for Miesha Tate, plus 185 for Lauren Murphy. So maybe there's something there, brother. But I like Miesha Tate, and I'm rocking with the decision. Same for you, yeah?
Yeah, Miesha Tate by decision. I wanted to take a second, though, man. Look at those odds that they're giving for the TKO. Yeah. Even the odds makers don't think it's happening. Or the sub for Lauren Murphy either. That's insane, man. But, yeah, I'm rocking Miesha Tate decision. I think that's the way it's going to go.
Yeah, right on. Well, there you go. And this was actually a little bit tougher than it seems, folks, to make a pick on this fight, man. Just because Miesha Tate has the name value, but you don't just go off of name value. You need to see Lauren Murphy. She's been an underdog. She won 5 in a row for a reason. I'll just leave it at that. But 2 of them were split decisions. So I'll just say that. You know what I'm saying? All right, AJ. Now just a couple more things before we get up out of here, man. I just wanted to talk very, very briefly about some of these prelim fights that people should be watching out for. Ricky Símon versus Jack Shore. You have to tune into this fight. I'm telling you this because this is buried on the prelims for I have no idea what reason, to be completely honest with you. So when I pull up the stats, plus 140 underdog Ricky Símon, just so the good folks at home know, and AJ, hold on, let me just change how we're looking right here. Boom, there we go. Just so the good folks at home know, I placed myself a little wager on Ricky Símon for the underdog play. Yes, Jack Shore is 16-0. Yes, this dude is a stud. He's taller, longer, all that good stuff. But Ricky Símon is a monster, bro. And this dude knows how to grapple. He's durable. He knows how to get. He knows how to win a fight. I'll just say that. If there's anyone who can make a case for an upset here, I think it is Ricky Símon. But I like the fight. What do you think about this fight, brother?
Whew, Ricky Símon's a dog, bro. Yeah. I do see why Jack Shore is the favorite. But if there's ever somebody who's willing to step in and draw his line in the sand, it's Ricky Símon.
And Ricky Símon, even though he's ranked now, he was unranked for a long time. Ooh, sorry, brother. Hold on 1 second, brother. All right, there we go. I think we're good. Sorry. I was Mr. Krabs me for a moment. I was like, what's going on? I'm getting a phone call. It's going on the computer, all that stuff. All right, here we go, brother. Jack Shore, Ricky Símon. That's definitely a banger right there. Bill Algeo versus Herbert Burns. That should be a fun fight. Seeing Herbert Burns back in action. We already talked about a couple of these sleepers right here. Of course, you do have the first fight of the night, which is, let me see if it'll let me show. Yeah, Jessica Penne versus Emily Ducote. So Emily Ducote, former Invicta strawweight champion, I believe so, right? So she had a big win. She actually has a knockout win over Danielle Taylor, who is a former UFC veteran right there. But Jessica Penne, she's no slouch, man. She is a veteran in and of herself. The big thing here is you look, Jessica Penne, longer, taller, and she's still an underdog, and she's more of a veteran, and she's still an underdog, plus 125, brother. Do you think Emily Ducote can come in her debut and get a win against Penne?
Man, on the stage where streaks come to die, woo, it's gonna be an uphill battle, maybe, especially because Penne isn't in her peak form, as if you will. You know, she's won a couple against Lupi Godinez and Karolina Kowalkiewicz, but she's been off for a little bit. So I think Ducote might have a chance here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everybody got a chance right there, brother. But lastly, look at this, man. Punahele Soriano versus Dacha Lungiambula. Either someone's getting knocked out or Pune is just about to wrestle Lungiambula all over the cage, man, and just back on the cage the whole time. Back on the mat the whole time, excuse me. What do you think's more likely outcome? A decision victory here or a knockout victory?
Oh, man. Knockout is what I'm hoping for, but what's most likely... Dalcha, he's durable, man. Both fighters are very durable. I can see a decision happening here.
Absolutely, brother. So listen, those are the prelims that you have to watch out for. And folks, you know what time it is. Hit us up on YouTube at youtube.com/freethinkersclub, on TikTok, Bloody Water Podcast, and on Twitch, Bloody Water Podcast. We're getting the Twitch going, folks, so you don't got to hurry too much on the Twitch yet. But you can find us on Instagram at Bloody Water Podcast, on Twitter at Bloody Water Pod, or hit up our website at bloodywaterpodcast.com. You know what time it is. You know the vibes, folks. We gave you the money line picks. We gave you the wagers of all varieties. We gave you props. We gave you everything, breakdown, analysis. Listen, man, this is a one-fight differential, so I want you folks to know, do not forget, a belt will be in here soon, the new belt that we're fighting for this year, and that is going to be the key here. I want that belt. I want to have two belts hanging behind me. I know you can see this first one right here. I want two of them hanging behind me so I could be double champ over here 2 years in a row, but I know my man AJ is vying for that belt. My man wants it, so he could hang one pretty up behind him. I got the inaugural win on the first season. This is season number 2, and my man has been winning all year long, so I still got my work cut out for me. AJ, my man, I know you hyped up. I know you feeling good coming into this, man. Should be a fun card, yeah?
Oh, it should be a great card, Derick. Should be a lot of fun to watch, man. And we're calling for it a lot of KOs. I mean, there's a lot of times we're even thinking like, man, can I go 4 KOs in a row? It might happen. We've seen crazier things, but this one's going to be a very fun, fan-friendly card. Like I said, not a lot of people have name value, but I think after this weekend, a lot of people are going to start paying attention to these fighters on this card right here.
100%. And I do want to give a programming alert here. Now, for the Pacific time people like myself here, Vegas and all that stuff, 11 a.m. main card, 8 a.m. prelims, brother. So it's something to take into consideration. AJ, now I don't know what that means for you. I don't know how we convert to your time. 10 a.m. prelim, right? 1
10 a.m. prelims, yeah.
So MMA for breakfast. That's what we're looking at right there. You got to love it, folks. Always love it, because sometimes I'm like, man, this is all in like at nighttime. I'm here 10 o'clock at night still watching fights. Like, all right, let's speed this thing up a little bit. So this should be fun. It's in New York, of course. So folks, that is it for us. Tune back in on Monday for the post show. UFC Long Island is going to be a banger. All right, folks, that's it for us. Until next time, peace.